I will now bring to order the Tuesday, April 13th, 2021 regularly scheduled board meeting for the Richland 2 Board of Trustees. If I can have a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Chair,
Dr. Caution Parker.
I move that we convene the executive session for the discussion of student admission requests into the district's adult education program.
Motion's been made by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there a second? Seconded by Dr. Holmes. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, if everyone will vote. Okay. Motion passes 7-0. We'll now convene into executive session. I'm going to reconvene the April 13th, 2021 regularly scheduled board meeting for the Richland 2 Board of Trustees. If I can have a motion for the end of executive session.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Agostini.
I move that we adjourned executive session at 5:39 p.m. and that we reconvene into the regular scheduled board meeting.
Okay. So adjournment of the executive session at 5:39. Do I have a second? Second by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll do, Zelina, we doing a computer vote? Okay, we'll vote. Okay, with hand vote, voice vote, Dr. Scott?
Yes.
All in favor? Okay, motion passes unanimous 7-0. I will now have the inspirational moment, the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Mackey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight's inspirational moment will be rendered by Ms. Kelsey Lanier Carter. An acknowledgement of April being the month of the military child, and we have so many things that we celebrate year round and are thankful for all of them. The military families are a big part of our population, and we learn so much whenever we talk to military folks about all that families go through. And ironically, we started the beginning of this school year with General Beagle actually presenting inspirational moment, and we're getting close to the end of the school year with our military liaison. And Kelsey Lanier Carter, just a little bit about her, received her degree in psychology and African American studies from USC, go Gamecocks, and her master's degree in education from George Mason University, and is working on her PhD coursework to finish soon. She is a Richland 2 parent. I'm not sure that I realized that. That's a good fun fact to know, of 2 children, and just wanted to share so much military experience I didn't realize that she had. She's worked with Airmen and Family Readiness, Military Family Life Consultant, Wounded Warriors Program, Walter Reed Hospital, Gulf Coast Community, and of course some higher ed programs. Also works with Differences Make a Difference. I love that consulting firm, and she has states that her commitment to children and families and strengthening communities is evident and proven, and she's recognized in many venues with regard to her compassion and her advocacy. And this is a fun fact: she has lived on or worked on military installations including Fort Myers, Fort Belvoir, Fort Stewart, Fort Drum, Hanscom Air Force Base, Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany, Keesler Air Force Base, Grissom ARP, Warner Robins, Andrews, Bowling, Navy, CB, camps, Butler, Foster, Courtney, and Kinzer in Okinawa, Japan. So it just makes me wonder if she is halfway qualified to do the job that she does as our military liaison. But I'm very happy to have her come forth and present to us this evening. I'll probably be talking until 6 o'clock tomorrow if I shared all of her accolades, but there are so many with regard to advocacy, psychology, military, and installations and advocacy. And we're just happy to have you here. And without further ado, I will stop talking and we'll hear from her. And she's also quite an ambassador of kindness, always kind and compassionate, and very affable, which I'm sure is very helpful when you're dealing with military families and students. And we're happy to hear from you, and I'll stop talking now.
Anaya.
Thank you for agreeing to be here.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey, for your introduction and the opportunity to be the inspirational moment this evening to our board chair, Mr. Manning, other members of the board, to Dr. Davis, our executive leadership, audience members and parents, community members, students, and educators who may be tuning in. Good evening to all of you. I want you to pay attention to what's going on behind me as I continue to talk. It's very hard to take your eyes off of these reunions, and this is what it's all about. First and foremost, for those of you who are present, who are also tuned in, if you're currently serving in the United States military, for those of you who have served in the military, if you have or a military spouse, I want to thank you, genuinely thank you for your service and for your commitment to this country and for our freedoms. And I don't say that lightly. I'm very serious about that. Thank you for your service. For those of you who served, thank you. April is designated, as you mentioned, Ms. Mackey, as the month of the military child. And so on tonight, I want to inspire you. You're probably already inspired by watching the video behind me, watching these kids reunited with their parents. But I want to share some stories about these small heroes right here in our district. Each year, the Department of Defense joins national, state, and local government, schools, military serving organizations, companies, and private citizens in celebrating military children and the sacrifices that they make. The video playing behind you, as I said before, is quite inspiring and allows you to feel the joy and the pain that these kids go through when their parents are deployed and when they're sent off to duty. Dr. Franklin sent me a tweet last week, and I just told her a while ago, Dr. Grant and I cried when I saw this tweet, because the emotion that the child had when they, was reunited with their dad was just, the child was crying, out loud. There are more than 1.6 million military children who face many challenges and unique experiences as a result of their parents' service. While military members serve around the world, we often forget the challenges faced by their children. Military families move on average every 2 to 3 years, impacting military children through changing schools and support networks. When a parent is deployed, family life can be tough. I know this personally. The balance between commitment to family and commitment to country becomes a little more delicate. The absence becomes a little more raw. The uncertainties become a little more frightening. And this is the time that we need to show empathy and support for these children and their parents, especially the parents that are left alone with this great responsibility, right? Military spouses, yes, right. Richland, too, has a significant number of military-connected students. In fact, among the highest in the state. We are a Purple Star district, I'm proud to say as well, which signifies that we are dedicated to meeting the needs of our military-connected students and their families. As a military spouse of many years, I can say that I know firsthand the joys and also the challenges of military life, constantly moving and readjusting and being left alone when my husband was on TDYs and deployed and had extensive travel. I know how families, particularly with children of special needs, need to feel confident, and they need to understand and feel confident about schools and services and supports for their children. The toll a move, from a personal standpoint, a toll that a military move has on a child with autism can be very hard, very hard. I know this all too well, but with basic empathy and understanding, the transition can be much smoother. I'm grateful to Richland, too, for how they welcomed and supported my family, me and my family, about 4.5 years ago, when we moved back to the States after a lengthy overseas assignment in Japan. I feel blessed. I feel very grateful for the opportunities to support families just like mine in this district. Joining Forces, which is an Obama administration initiative, is being reintroduced, as we know, with new priorities by our First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden. In the words, and I quote from her words, she says, "We're here because of you, because of the stories you have shared, your joys and your challenges, from difficult permanent change of stations, which is called PCS, to the lack of childcare on an on and off basis. We're fighting to keep your own careers and to saying goodbye to beloved schools and friends, from caring for your loved ones to mourning those who have been lost. You are the rudder that steers our military, and supporting your physical, social, and emotional health is a national security imperative. Service members cannot focus," in the quote there, "service members cannot focus on their mission if their families don't have what they need to thrive at home. There's no way they can do that." General Beagle, as you mentioned before, Brigadier General Beagle, who will be the commander at Fort Jackson for at least another month, sad to say, he always says that the biggest consistency in a military child's life is inconsistency. That's the biggest consistency, inconsistency. So under what I call the operation, I call this Operation Richland 2, we're all on a mission. We have a mission that we're on the front lines, right? We are on the front lines in education as a premier district to continue to improve our efforts to honor and support these young heroes in our midst. To our military-connected students, if you're listening, your parents, we love you. We appreciate you. We honor you this month of the military child, and beyond, for your resilience and for being strong. Thank you so much. And now if you would please stand with me and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now have the approval of the agenda. If I can please have a motion. Ms. Mackey.
Move to approve the agenda for the April 13th, 2020 Richland 2 School Board of Trustees meeting.
Motion is made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll have the vote. Okay. I haven't seen it. You want us to hand vote again? Okay, if I can please hand vote.
Yes.
Ms. Mackey, if you'll put your hand up for me. Thank you. All right, motion passes unanimous 7-0. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Ms. Agostini, so motion passes 6 yes, 1 no. All right, I'll move on to our consent agenda. If I can have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Agostini.
I move to approve the consent agenda for tonight's meeting, April 13th, 2021.
Motion's been made by Ms. Agostini. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll have the vote. Okay, we'll hand vote again. All in favor?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We now have public participation. We have one person signed up. If I can please have Ms. Bennett come forward. And Ms. Bennett, as you're coming forward, I'll remind you that these are recorded sessions. You will have 3 minutes, and we ask that you not state the name of any staff members or students.
Hello. My question that I have to do with testing, the state, the SC Ready testing, classroom seating for that testing,
and teachers in general. I know a few that when I talk to them, because I'm concerned about them, they state to me that they feel like they aren't being heard, that it is parents who get the message across. So I'm here to speak on the behalf of my friends that teach as well. And that's the first thing. I feel like the teachers should have any and everything that they need. They are tired, they are stretched, and during this significant time, I feel like they shouldn't never have felt like they were expendable. They were always essential, and they always deserve to be treated with more respect than what I've seen in the newspaper, and than what they feel like, what they have expressed to me. As we all know, we're in a jam here, and no one wants to feel like, especially from a top level, from the governor's level, that when you're given an essential service, because the children don't move, none of us move unless someone teaches us. So teachers should have been top tier, right up there with healthcare workers and anyone to get the vaccine. Our governor was wrong to say that our teachers could wait, especially when there's so many people that are trying to jam the kids back into the school. There's not enough space in the school, the classrooms. I can see, and my child is virtual, I can see from the camera how there's not enough room in the classroom for even the few kids that are there. And as much as everyone loves to talk about the plexiglass, these are a false sense of security when we're still all sharing the same air. I would like to know why there's not a can of Lysol in every classroom. I'm able to get a whole Lysol. Why doesn't every classroom have a can of Lysol and an air purifier? I have 4 in my home, all under $100. This too, seating for the SC Ready. We received an email stating that the testing, if a family determines that it is unsafe for a student to attend school for the sole purpose of taking the test, we will not penalize them, their teacher, or their school. I want to know what the relief is for that if the state is looking for a way to gauge how good the state and the district and each student is doing, what gauge or whatever is going to be used
Ms.
if
Bennett.
these tests aren't necessarily mandatory
Ms.
at
Ms.
this
Bennett.
point.
I'm sorry, your time is up. 3 minutes is up.
That goes by fast.
It does, yeah. unfreeze of the employee step for 2020-2021 school year. If I can please have a motion.
Chair,
Dr. Holmes?
I move that we approve a step increase for all eligible employees based on the associated salary schedule step. For employees not associated with a salary schedule, we recommend a 2% step equivalent.
Second.
Motion's been made by Dr. Holmes, seconded by Ms. Mackey. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, we'll again have a hand vote. All in favor, raise your hand.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Agostini?
I'm sorry, but I would like what's showing up there to unfreeze the employee schedule to be changed to reflect what was made by Dr. Holmes, because we are not unfreezing. The motion that is showing says
Okay.
to unfreeze the employee step.
So you want to ensure that the motion is reflective of what was stated?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and I apologize. We are having board doc problems, which is delaying some of the activity. Back in there. Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Tony. Sorry, Ms. Agostini, we're going to go ahead and move forward. I trust that Zelina has entered it correctly. We're having system issues, so we can complete the vote, and we'll ensure that it says it appropriately per the work that she just did for us. So we're going to continue.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So, she, Sorry.
I was thinking that I would abstain from doing that vote and that the second one would pop up. That's why I
I
abstained.
see. So you thought that, I mean, you misunderstood what the process was.
Right, right.
Okay, so you need for your vote to be reflected as a yes,
vote.
not an abstention?
Yes.
Okay, so, just so that everybody is clear, the motion is, correct on the screen as it was stated by Dr. Holmes, which addressed Ms. Agostini's request, and Ms. McFadden has stated that she intended to vote yes and just misunderstood the process. So it is, in fact, a 7-0 vote for the motion as stated by Dr. Holmes. Okay? Thank you. Thanks, Selena. All right, we'll now move on to item 10.1, report on superintendent's highlights. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, to our visiting public, as well as those who are viewing our broadcast, I'd like to take this opportunity to say good evening and welcome to the superintendent highlights. Leading my highlights tonight are our vaccine clinics and SOAR, the district's new summer readiness program. First, let's start with the vaccine clinics. Through our partnership with Providence Health, the second round of vaccination clinics for our employees will be open later this week at Westwood High School. Second doses of the Pfizer vaccine will be administered Thursday, April the 15th, and Friday, April 16th. These again will be asynchronous learning days for our students. 5K enrollment. Early registration for kindergarten is underway. Please visit the Richland 2 website at richland2.org to begin registering your child. Early registration for kindergarten is now through June the 11th. Children must be 5 years old on or before September the 1st, 2021 to register for the 2021-2022 school year and start kindergarten in August of 2021. If your child is currently enrolled in a Richland 2 pre-K program, you do not have to submit a new student kindergarten enrollment application. You will need to complete your annual registration when that online process opens later this month. Outstanding Teacher of American History. Dent Middle School teacher Dr. Timothy E. Hicks is the 2021 State Outstanding Teacher of American History. The South Carolina Daughters of the American Revolution selected Dr. Hicks as this year's winner and presented the state award to him at a luncheon held in March. He is now in the running for the National Outstanding Teacher of American History Award, which will be announced later this spring. Dr. Hicks is a nationally board certified teacher who has taught for more than 26 years in the TLC Magnet program at Dent Middle School. Best Communities for Music Education designation. Richland 2 has been honored with the Best Communities for Music Education designation from the NAM Foundation for its outstanding commitment to music education. Now in its 22nd year, the Best Communities for Music Education designation is awarded to districts that demonstrate outstanding achievement in efforts to provide music access and education to all students. To qualify, Richland 2 answered detailed questions about funding, graduation requirements, music class participation, instructional time, facilities, support for music programs, and community music making programs. Congratulations to the district's coordinator of fine arts, Dr. Wendy Campbell, and all of the talented teachers and students who made this possible. And last is an outline of our April celebrations. This month of April is fully packed with celebrations. We are celebrating World Autism Awareness Day on April 2nd, or we did, National Child Abuse Prevention Month, Inclusion Month, National Assistant Principals Week, which was April 4th through 6th, National Library Week, which is April 4th through the 10th, Public School Volunteer Week, which is April 19th through the 23rd, Earth Day, April 22nd, Administrators Professional Day, April 22nd. April is the month of the military child, and Richland 2 will have Purple Up Day to honor our military students and families on Friday, April the 23rd, so don't forget to wear your purple. Children's Day's World Book Day is on April 30th, and Arbor Day is also on April 30th. And last month, please forgive us for omitting National Athletic Trainer Month in our celebrations. Mr. Chair, that concludes my superintendent highlights for this board meeting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate the National Athletic Trainer Day. That's a lot of highlight. Next are legislative priorities. Dr. Holmes.
Okay, our legislative highlights for today. Bill H 3609 was signed into law on 3/11/21, which states an appropriates of $50 million to the Executive Budget Office to provide teacher step increases for the 2021 school year. Requires each school district to provide a one-time lump sum payment of the entire step increase due to an employee, including any amounts in arrears by June 15, 2021. Or the school district may utilize the current payroll system to pay the step increase. This also makes the step increase for the 2021 school year permanent. And that's a big yay, so that's congratulations to all those people who have worked so hard during these trying times. And also, we additionally hope that this bill, our district is including those teachers who have the 28 years or more, which we just passed with the 2%. So kudos to our district and our board. We appreciate that. And I hope other districts in the state will follow through, because those teachers with longevity, they deserve that increase also. Here's a bill S 324, and we need to watch this one. This is the bill to move the state minimum teacher salary to the national average by 2029 to 2030. It is a good bill, but the question is why so long as into waiting until 2029? So keep your eye out for S 324, which has not been assigned to the committee yet. Also, S203, this bill relates to the removal of school district trustees and fulfilling a vacancy by a governor in the case of malfeasance, misfeasance, incompetence, absenteeism, conflict of interest, misconduct, persistent negligence of duty or incapacity. This is where they give the governor the authority to remove school board members. I think that this is one that everyone needs to watch, because we have to keep in mind that all government officials should be elected by the people. The update on this is as of 4/13/2021. The agenda it's on the agenda for 4/13/2021 for the House Education Subcommittee. So it is in subcommittee, it is moving. If you have a concern about that, please watch and address that. Also, S201 addresses revised accountability measures for districts relating to the Education Accountability Act and increase and defines the powers of the state superintendent. Basically, that's the same bill. They're both about the same, except for this one has to do with the governor having the authority to remove people. And that the update on that is it is on the agenda for the House subcommittee. S701, it's in the House right now, and that deals with district school districts to offer in-person. This is the one that everybody was waiting for. District schools to offer in-person 5-day-a-week instruction to all students no later than April the 12th, 2021. Allows teachers who retired on or before April 19th, 2019 to return to work and earn up to $50,000 annually without affecting monthly retirement allowances. And for the 2021-22 school year, prohibits, this is a biggie right here, prohibits districts from assigning teachers to instruct students via dual modality. What that means is by teaching virtually and in person, unless it is reasonable and necessary to extreme and unavoidable circumstances. However, districts must give those teachers additional compensation and provide to the State Department of Education the names of the teachers, the school where the students are and where the teachers are employed. And that is in the Public Works Committee on Tuesday afternoon. It is set to take up the resolution. Last week, there were several failed attempts to get the full House to take up the joint resolution. One of the changes that will need to be made in committee is the April 12th deadline. H 4100. This is a bill for the 2021-22 school state budget, which proposes a $9.6 billion state spending plan. Yeah. You trying to say I'm loud? I'm sorry, I have a heavy voice. Okay. The chair of the Ways and Means Committee explained during the budget debate that the committee, we're going to skip all that. Okay, we're going to skip all that. This bill, the H 4100, basically is saying the following. It allocates related to the education of the current state spending plan. And some of the things inclusive of that is an increase in the state aid to classrooms, base student costs from $2,489 to $2,500. One other highlight, $5.5 million for school nurses. Another highlight, $10.2 million increase for full day K-4. This will allow approximately 600 more students to enroll in K-4. $2 million for school resource officers, $1 million increase for student fellows, $30 million for continued state efforts to expand broadband. And one key point here is the South Carolina Board of Economic Advisor this past Thursday voted to increase its average forecast for the current fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. With the revised estimates for the current fiscal year and 2021, the General Assembly will have available for the appropriation approximately $1.72 billion in unobligated revenue. $1.72 billion in unobligated revenue, of which $385.8 million are reoccurring funds. That's great. And $1.3 million are non-reoccurring funds. With that, Mr. Chair, that ends our legislative update.
Thank you very much, Dr. Holmes and the committee for that work. If there's no questions on that, we'll move on to item 10.3, our update on capital improvement. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, providing us with our update on our capital improvement projects, we have Mr. Will Anderson, who is our Chief for Operations and Logistics. Mr. Anderson.
Good evening. Happy to be here tonight to speak with you all in public about our update on capital improvements. We'll continue our monthly consent agenda items that you will see, but we do want to periodically come and deliver, have this in a public forum to see what we're up to with our capital improvements. This is a reminder of summary where we are to date. 33 projects of our total of about roughly 80 projects are complete. So we're happy to have those done behind us. Surprisingly, it's been going on 3 years, over 3 years now that we started this. So we're glad to be where we are there. 13 projects are currently under construction. So we're in our heavy build time. A lot of those 33 were smaller projects. So the 13 are the really heavy lifting. So our cash flow needs have gotten a little higher during this period, but we're happy where they're at right now. 5 are currently in our design phase, and then the rest will be in our phase 2, which will do an RFP and selection process in early fall, late fall, with the goal of having those firms and construction management teams hired by January of 2022. We've also started the security camera process, security camera and door. We've about 6 facilities are now complete. You can see a picture of that, of one of the cameras there. And if you've been in this building, you can see the new cameras. And then buses, we've purchased 23 of the 25 buses. The rebuilds right now, Bethel Hanbury, if you've been by Bethel Hanbury, out of all the rebuilds, it's going phenomenal, and it's really due to the land. Bethel sits on a sandy site. E.O. Wright and Forest Lake sit on a less suitable soil site, and so we are moving well ahead and great progress at Bethel Hanbury. E.O. Wright and Forest Lake, we continue to make progress, but not as quickly as one. It's not impacted our schedule at this point, but we are still not moving vertical just yet at those projects. Really excited about our stadiums, which will be complete in May. It's very exciting. If you haven't had a chance to go out there and check those out, those are getting really close. We will have a dedication ceremony starting in the works of planning those for those stadiums here probably with the first games in the fall for football season. And we'll be sure to put that on everybody's calendar. And the turf is being installed in R&E with the turf and track being complete this summer. So it'll all be done for R&E here very soon. Our high school renovations, Blythewood High is going well. We've caught up a little bit with our timeline with that being complete here in July. And then Ridgeview is going smoothly as well. We are very thankful for our students and our staff, especially at Blythewood, Ridgeview, and at Richland Northeast that are having ongoing construction while trying to teach and learn. And so we're thankful for what they do to be accommodating. But as we're able to do this now, it's really going to help us be done quicker. So Ridgeview will be done in the fall. R&E will really start in earnest this summer with their construction. Couple design updates. We're reviewing the budget you saw, I guess, a month or so ago, where we are with Performing Arts Center. Design's still there, but once they start moving out of schematic into design development, that's when they really start putting a lot of the pieces together. So that just takes some time. So we're just ensuring that we're on budget and staying on budget for that project. That's currently scheduled for a late fall construction here on site. Langford and Catawba Trail, the documents are done. That construction will be this summer. And Conder and Keels are in schematic design, and I've got a couple slides to show you what some of those are looking like now. Here's a Conder. You can see on the left of your screen, it's just an overall aerial view. We're still working out some of this in terms of the drive. We know Conder and Keels, Conder especially, has issues with their traffic, and so we're trying to add some of the availability to help the traffic there with some new roads. We're still working through that. This is, again, a schematic design. And you can see what the addition with an arts and more of a performing arts space for Conder with that addition there. You can see on your screen, if I can get this to work, this gray here is where this would be. So this would be coming off there for a new entrance, Conder being an art school, a very nice facility as we continue to work through that. Next one is Joseph Keels. Similar. You can see this front facade, this imagery. This is this new cafeteria / performance space that you see in some of our elementary schools, our newer elementary schools. This is coming off the main entrance. So this is a nice view of this entrance. If you're coming off of Park Lane Road, you can see this right there. So a very good facelift for Joseph Keels. As a reminder, this is updated as of March where we are on our encumbrances and expenditures. We still have a remaining balance of $170 million. We've expended $133 million, and we have currently $191 tied up in encumbrances, and you can see our timeline on our projects right there. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Tom Cramner to give an update on the IT projects that are associated with the bond. I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about our typical 8% projects that we've done, and then answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. And I've come to the podium complete with a disinfecting towel of Libby Roof handed me, so we're good to go. I just want to give you all an update on some of our the IT projects that are involved with the bond projects. And certainly, first of all, one of the largest and most extensive projects was the replacement of all of the interactive boards in every classroom across the district. Some of you may know that we've been in the smart board business for almost 20 years now, and it was time to replace that equipment. And so about 2,100 classrooms across the district, we installed those new 75-inch panels with software to really enhance the instruction in the classroom. It also included the re-engineering and reinstallation of whiteboards in the classrooms, so that we have a nice installation with, instead of one long whiteboard, we have two on each side with the interactive board in the center. So that's a pretty good project there. Another big part is our sustainability of student one-to-one computing devices, as well as Windows computers across the district. As far as student Chromebooks, we replaced about 9,000 Chromebooks in high school so far. And with the pandemic, we expanded about 2,500 units to elementary schools in grades K1 and 2, which previously did not have devices. So now we are a one-to-one school district, K-12, and that part of the project is complete. As far as Windows computers for teachers, they both had Windows desktop computers and Chromebooks. We have collapsed both of those into a mobile laptop that is a two-in-one laptop that serves as a laptop and converts to a tablet. So the teacher can move around the classroom and use it like a wireless tablet. We've completed that part of it, and we're really happy with it, and we have more Windows refresh coming over time. Just to give you a sense of scale of what we have to support in terms of sustainability, there's just over 50,000 computing devices across the district, and that includes all of the Chromebooks for every student, desktops, laptops, and tablets. We're also finally replacing some of our older telephone systems in schools. We had 6 of our schools had the old analog systems, and we replaced those and new handsets in other schools. So that is a good project, and that is now complete. Another piece that we had to pay attention to is data backup and disaster recovery. Really important operation in IT is to make sure that you have business continuity if something were to go wrong. And so we have redesigned the data backup. We've established it in a new location in the district and enhanced our capabilities to have off-site backup as well as cloud-based backup in another place in the United States, and that is now complete. We've done a district-wide Wi-Fi replacement, which gives us better coverage in Wi-Fi. That's about 2,600 access points that have been replaced around the district. Gives us better performance and some of the newer technologies. And that part of it is also completed. We've also had a 3-phase approach to keeping our critical data center equipment up to date. We've completed the first two phases of that, and phase 3 is coming soon, and that is complete. We also, on the back end of the district, back wiring closet side of district network, you may or may know or may not know that we have to have little battery backup units that keep our telephone systems running when the power goes out. And we are replacing about 279 of those, they're called UPSs, around the district, so that we have the ability to keep things up when the power goes out, keep the phone systems running. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the complete IT team that worked so hard to do all this work, and we're really pleased of where we are. In terms of budget status, real quick to wrap this up, we began from the bond with all the projects totaling a budget of $25 million. Expended to date is just a little over $18 million, with the funds remaining of about $6.9 million. And those projects for upcoming projects are yet another Chromebook replacement coming up this summer, additional Windows sustainability, the 3rd phase of the data center I spoke about, totaling of about $6.6 million. So that's the current status of where we are now. And I'll be happy to take any questions at the end.
Thanks, Tom. Moving on to our what we call 8% projects. We've tried to use the term capital improvements as general now, but we are still working on those. Some of the projects we've done projects at 13 elementary schools, 7 middles, 5 highs. One of our big projects was redoing the track at Spring Valley, which was not in the bond. A lot of rain this past year has caused a lot of stormwater repairs we've had to do, and of course, to do these repairs, we have to have the equipment to do those. Currently, still there's left in this year's FY21 projects out of capital improvement is more stormwater and retention pond repairs, as well as some mechanical systems that have to be done. We're also we're working right now to update our 10-year facility plan. Surprisingly, as I mentioned earlier, we have not done that now in about 4 years, and so it's time to do that. We typically have done that every 2 years, and now it's time to make sure we got a new updated plan. Some of the money that is spent on some of those, that transfer, the $3.5 million last year, we are very appreciative of the board's action to allow us to continue to maintain our facilities. Things happen, we all know that, and so you can see where the breakdown of those money. And as a reminder, the district athletic projects, majority of that is for the track at Spring Valley High School. Just some other things just to let you all know, we are seeing increases in prices in some of our materials, in particular our metals and woods. We've also started to see increases due to the freeze of Texas. Basically, a lot of the oils and things in glues and things like that are not being made. For example, we were told the other day that we couldn't get epoxy until December. So there's some of those things are real. Now we're monitoring the volatility in those so we can make sure we are being good stewards of our taxpayers and making sure that is something we're seeing. Labor is great. We're not seeing any increase in the cost of labor. The market is still very strong, still a lot of people wanting to work. COVID, we have not seen any major impacts, and so that has not helped. All of our projects are still on schedule, but again, we are just monitoring any of those increases due to the materials. We're hoping that this volatility will start to go down. And as a reminder, all of our projects are up to date thanks to our communications office. And as Tom said, just thanks to our team for all the hard work they do to get these things done. And with that, Tom and I are happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, questions and comments, Ms. Mackey?
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Cranmer, actually, you just answered one of my questions that I knew the answer to, but I always ask it just so people know that the information that you share is available on the Richland 2 website. And just to be specific, when you go to that website, I appreciate the transparency. When you go to the site, when you click on the updates, the public will get to see exactly what you present at the board meetings. It's not just an abbreviated version. It's exactly what you present here. So I appreciate the transparency. And Mr. Cranmer, I don't think I knew so much about IT until you started presenting when I got on the board. So just to look at all the upgrades and the issues and concerns you had years ago and looking at where we are now, I'm just thankful for the presentations you provide, the transparency, and it's just surreal, having been on, a parent side before all of this and then getting to the bond. Seeing so many things come to fruition years ago and, before some of us were on the board. And the public who voted for this bond, this is the fruits of your labor. The board members who voted, and support, who support these projects. This is the fruits of our labor. So I'm just very thankful. Nothing is perfect. People aren't perfect. Systems aren't perfect. And I know
and adding those to our fleet to fill in the blanks where we are struggling at locations to get those. And we are using those. Right now, we're not having to because we're able to due to the time frames that we have and the decrease in ridership due to COVID, we're not having to put those into our fleet at this time.
So is there a difference between an activity bus other than the color and a normal school bus?
The activity bus, the school bus, the color, the stop arms, off the top of my head, I have to get back to you exactly, but there's some different things that if to run a regular bus route, they have to have certain features, and activity buses are more designed, normally the ones we've had in the past, to more of the charter type buses that don't have those same features as a school bus, the stop arms and all those different things. But I can get the exact answer to you, Ms.
Okay.
Agostini.
I guess the buses that we bought, though, are standard school buses. So
they
that
look
we can...
like every bus other than they just say Richland 2 on the side.
Okay.
So they are the yellow school bus. Instead of State of South Carolina, it says Richland School District 2. And then when they use for activities, for example, for athletics, we stick like a Ridgeview sticker on the side to kind of give a little school spirit for them when they go to events.
Okay, I guess my concern of something that you said at the last meeting too was though when we're talking about using these to get the kids to school, that they're not being maintained by the state and that the money is coming out of the general fund to run these buses. Did we know that when we purchased these buses?
Yes, we knew that. But it's an increase in our. We could not use any of our activity buses, so none of them could be used for that. Now, so we did know there would be those operational costs, but it wasn't to the amount of all additional costs because we've already paying those costs for all of activities and those drivers. So yes, there's some additional cost, but the magnitude was not just an additional one bus exactly, say 100, whatever that operational cost is. I don't have that information in front of me to give you those specific data points, but we did know there was definitely, we're taking on the ownership of those buses, so we have to maintain and fuel and provide the drivers for those.
Okay, and thank you. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Cramner about the computers that we bought for the elementary school, 2,500. Was that something that was intended to be purchased with bond money?
Those were computers that we had to purchase to have e-learning at home, and we talked about it and felt like that was money that we could initially buy the computers because there was such a backlog of computers, and then hopefully get CARES Act money in a reimbursement way for that. And I think we're hoping to get CARES Act reimbursement for those computers, but I think the answer for that is still pending right now.
Okay, well, because that was my question. Why weren't we using CARES Act money instead of using the bond money?
Right. It's really a matter of timing because back last spring when this all hit, everybody in the country and in the world were buying computers, so we had to act very, very, very quickly to get them in the pipeline right away. And so, again, we're hoping that we will get CARES Act reimbursement. We had to submit an application to the State Department of Education, and then there was a little amendment that followed behind that, so that's pending right now. But I think we'll get approval on that.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Dr. Davis.
Mr. Chair, I will, just for a point of clarification, I would like Dr. Miley to come to the podium and answer that question a little bit, answer that question for Mrs. Agostini. I would like to say, just for the record, that it's more than a hope. We will get reimbursed. This does qualify as a purchase under the funding that we will be receiving from the state and federal government. So we anticipate that application being accepted and the purchasing of those laptops for our students, particularly K through 2, to be granted. But I want Dr. Miley to
No, I
address
think
that with a little bit
that's
more.
correct. We will not be, the funding that we used out of the bond proceeds to buy those computers will be swapped for funding from CARES funding. The reason we had to go ahead and do it was timing. You could not pay for something and then claim it in CARES. We had to have the application approved and before we paid for something. We had to pay for these ahead of that. So what we'll be doing is using some CARES Act funding for other computers. So it will be a wash. But in terms of timing, we had to use bond funds in order to have those laptops to provide for the summer programs. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Miley.
Thank you. Other board members, questions or comments? I'd like to reiterate as well. I know, Will, you stated that we were aware that the buses, that the funding for gas, maintenance, management of those buses would be on the district. That was made clear to us at the time that we discussed the bond and the buses. I clearly remember that was part of the discussions up front, that because they were activity buses, we were buying them with all of the features to use, but that the cost of that would be on the district for use of those buses. And that, I mean, that's typically been our activity buses. We've had to pay for those previously.
Yeah, and I think the real issue was before these buses were bought and we needed 2 buses for a route, we couldn't use our activity buses whether we wanted to pay for it or not because they weren't legal to use.
Right.
So now when we do need 2 buses because something has broken down or something, now we can use those activity buses to get kids to school on time. But we always knew that our activity buses, we have to pay for, we have to maintain and pay the gas. The state pays for all of the maintenance and gas and buses for the route system buses.
Ms. Mackey, you had a comment?
Dr. Miley just spoke to it. I was going to reiterate that the bottom line with regard to the end user of the product that we're servicing is education. We have kids who are losing significant instructional time due to our bus issue. So we found a way to be creative and try to get more buses and the double and triple routes for those kids who depend on school buses to get to school. Their crisis was very real. And so what
Mr.
we have
Anderson,
done,
correct me, but
yes.
We don't use an activity bus and let a route bus sit on if it's for a route.
Absolutely.
We only use them when we need them and all activity and all route buses are being used. But buying the buses that Mr. Anderson and his team selected allows us that flexibility to provide that extra
Absolutely.
bus when
so
we
that
need it.
students won't continue losing instructional time having to deal with double and triple bus routes. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that we were told about that when we were going. I mean, there was a lot of information, so it could easily have been overlooked, but we were told about that. Tom, I appreciate the IT work that you all do. Having a background in IT, I did understand everything that you presented there, and much of that does put us in a much better light. The business continuity components, the fact that y'all are managing over 50,000 devices in the district is incredible. I did get to see firsthand some of our teachers using the new boards, having all the students who were remote up on the boards while they were doing construction. So I know that that's been an invaluable tool through COVID. And so I appreciate the effort that was made to update that technology. And I also had an opportunity to tour a little bit of the majority of our construction sites with Mr. Anderson and Will. I appreciate the tour and got to see the work that was being done firsthand. We're employing a lot of folks in the construction industry. And I did see our teachers, some of them even on windows that were shared with construction sites had kind of encouraging posters and all for the folks that were doing the construction. So there's a lot going on there. We are helping boost the economy, I assure you, with the construction work that we have going on. But it is exciting to see it come to fruition. So thank you all very much. We'll now move on to the budget update. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, we have our Senior Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Harry Miley, will provide you with information regarding our budget update. Dr. Miley.
Thank you. it's early in the process. As always, we kind of predicate anything we talk about in April as being early. But to kind of refresh everybody of where we are, this time last year, last year, about middle of March, we were proceeding with putting our budget together for FY 2021. We were getting input from all of our departments, all of our schools, all the needs of the district. We were monitoring the state budget. If you remember, the House Ways and Means, the whole House passed a budget out quickly. There was quite a bit of funding available, and then 30 days later, it was all gone. And to refresh you passed a continuing resolution back in April 21st, 2020, that continued our budget process for this current fiscal year based on last year's total revenues, in anticipation of the state doing the same thing. And in fact, the state did do the same thing in mid to late June. They passed a continuing resolution. In fact, you've already acted on something tonight. In that continuing resolution, the state froze, my terminology may not be the best, but they froze all state teacher salaries. They did not allow the normal step increase due to another year's of working. They suspended that. We thought they would come back in early fall. They came back and they didn't do anything else. They kept the same continuing resolution. We thought they'd come back in January and do something else. And to date, we're still operating, the state's still operating under the same continuing resolution that they passed in June as we are. We're still under the same continuing resolution from last year that you passed in April 21. As today, this House has passed a budget out and sent it to the Senate that was based on about $100 million of new money. You know, the budget process is kind of like our weather. You just wait a few days or a couple of hours and things will change. Well, last Thursday, the Board of Economic Advisors met. That's the board that forecasts tax revenues for the legislature to base their budget projections and budget on. The Board of Economic Advisors had met the previous month, and it acknowledged that they were running hundreds of millions of dollars ahead, but they weren't going to change the revenue estimate. It does cause some friction, believe me, because now that the House has passed a budget, suddenly they approved $300 million of funding that the Senate now gets the first crack at the appropriation of the extra $300 million. This is not something new. It's happened in the legislature probably 39 out of the last 40 years or so that there's ever been an increase. But there are right now, there's about $385 million of recurring dollars to be used for FY 21-22 for the state budget. In the budget that they passed prior to this BEA meeting, they allocated about $100 million for education. $50 million of that was for EFA base student costs. They increased the base student costs a whopping $11, and roughly about $50 million, which is around about the money that would have take for all districts to give another step increase for FY 21-22. Backing up just a second, the legislature did pass, which you acted on tonight again, they did allocate $50 million from another source of funding from the reserve funds for a step increase, the retroactive one-time step increase that y'all authorized tonight. But that $50 million is non-recurring money. At this point, one of the challenges that this district and every other district in the state will be facing next year is if the legislature does allocate funding for another step next year, we will have to come up with the funding to pay for the recurring dollars that you've approved tonight that the state legislature appropriates. So we have some challenges, but the good news is that the BEA did find $300 million the other day. Like you read a few minutes ago, Mrs. Holmes, Dr. Holmes, that there's about $1.4 billion of additional funding for one-time funding that we'll see what they do with. So that's kind of where we are. We are starting our budget process. We've, as we normally do, we go to the departments, we go to the schools, we look at our needs, the growth in the district, and we're putting that demand side together as we always do during this process. And the supply side, as I look at it as an old economist, are the funding from both the county and the legislature. And so right now, those both are still kind of up in the air, but it should be a better year than last year. Tonight, I wanted to also to update you on that and also talk about some of the priorities. We did summarize, and you have in front of you the priorities that we were gathered during the board's retreat back in February. And as you see, the primary ones were salary increases for teachers, bus drivers, nurses, and other staff, recruitment and retention of employees, our facilities, diverse learner needs and equity, IT and Wi-Fi access for all, and social and emotional health for all. Other areas you saw that those weren't just the only priorities that you identified, but as you can see, the leader development, accountability for spending, classroom size, reading coaches, special ed specialists, elementary world language, arts programs, student meals, third-party research to determine teachers staying, why they're staying and leaving, and revisit the need for DO employee and administrative positions and educational resources for students. Those priorities, as you'll see in the next couple of, I guess someone else is driving this because I ignored the PowerPoint. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. It takes a village. Certainly when I'm involved, it takes more than one. As we have in the past, in fact, we talked about it. It was a bad recommendation of mine. I suggested that, well, we don't have a whole lot of money. Why don't we skip the employee survey this year, because we probably won't have, this is before the BEA met, we probably won't have a whole lot of funding for allocating new funding, but better, smarter heads prevailed, and we did survey the employees, and as you can see, we had about 1,200 responses, and they are primarily from our classified teachers, which is good. That's the driver of the district, and as you can see, and the one that we really want to talk about is, in fact, what were their priorities. And as normal, and it's been the trend for the last few years, employee compensation is the number one priority for all of our employees. Not all of our employees, but for the vast majority of our employees. Their total ranking was about 3667, which is well beyond anything else. And you can see it. I can read them to you if you'd like, and especially if anybody is listening that can't see this. Our top priority from our employees is employee compensation. Second is academic intervention for lower achieving students. Third is student support services, such as psychologists, social workers. Fourth is personal protective equipment and safety and security. Number 5 is student behavioral support, behavioral interventionists, hall monitors, and things like that. Our 6th, we might start numbering these on the left-hand column. I might suggest that next year. But number 6 is special education. Number 7 is instructional technology. 8 is arts, fine and performing arts. Kate, and then diversity and multicultural education, preschool education, professional development, athletics and non-instructional extracurricular activities, magnet programs, gifted and talented, world languages, instruction, and did not answer came in last. And given that was the majority of my presentation tonight. I'd be glad to answer any questions. What we plan to do is have these frequently over the next 60 days. We will be, as our normal process, developing our budget, bringing it to you for 2 readings. We still will be taking our budget to the county for their 3 readings. That process will probably take up most of May and June, and then adopt a budget by June 30th for it to begin in July 1. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Board members, questions or comments? Dr. Mike, I guess I'll just make one comment. In the years I've been on the board, I think one of the most interesting things is the increase in requests for both academic and behavioral support. I've seen those items go from occasional to move up the list and definitely be higher priority. And I think this is reflective of that we continue to see those needs increase.
I think those were trending up before the pandemic.
Correct.
And I think the pandemic has certainly just exacerbated and exposed some of those areas that make them more visible and more higher on our priority list.
Yeah, as I would say, I mean, we're agreeing it's an absolute trend upward. We're seeing more and more specificity in some of that. I've told some of our legislators and others that we have an increase in our budgets for social emotional support for our students, and we're seeing that trend continue with the request there. So just more of an observation on that. But thank you very much for the update.
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Davis, I guess we're moving on to the draft agenda items for April 27th, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the board, our draft agenda items for the April 27, 2021 regular scheduled board meeting will begin with our call to order at 5:30. We'll have our executive session where we have student appeals and student admissions to a district adult education program. We'll have an inspirational moment after we return from our executive session, followed by the approval of our agenda and the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes, employment recommendations, releases, and in-district transfers, as well as the ratification of personnel. We'll have public participation at 6.1, followed by our voting on executive session items, should they be any. We'll have under new business, no action requested. We'll have the superintendent's highlights, and then we'll provide a report for the dual research data that was requested. We'll have an update on the multi-tier systems of support, or better known as MTSS. I do not believe at this time we need a capital improvement update at 8.4 since we had one here at this board meeting. We'll then follow that with a draft agenda meeting, the agenda items for the next meeting. On the 9.1, our draft agenda items for the May 11th, 2021 board meeting, the approval of those items, public participation, number 2, if needed, board and superintendent comments, followed by executive session 2 and voting on executive session 2 items if needed. And then we'll ask for the adjournment at 15.1. That concludes the highlights for the draft agenda.
Thank you. Board members, questions or comments? Dr. Holmes?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see where we have a legislative update, since we have some bills that are pending, and I think we need to add that.
Yeah, we'll add it. That's not going to take a motion because that's a standard part of our
Okay, thank you.
updates. Other board members?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Agostini.
I'd like to make a motion that we table item 8.2, the report for the dual research data.
Okay. Motion's been made by Ms. Agostini. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Scott. Discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Agostini.
The reason why I'm asking to table it, initially when it was brought up, I abstained from the vote because I wanted to support a board member's request. But after, taking time to review it, and we've had a policy come up for discussion a couple of times, trying to get it on the agenda, we had a couple of board members make it very clear that they did not want to bring back up to vote a motion that had failed. And since the dual motion did fail, I think we can make better use of our time here as the board, but also for our employees, our staff employees that are having to do the research to find this information. I think that it's not a wise use of their time. And for the board members that are interested in finding more about Jewel, there have been in the past couple of weeks newspaper articles in the state newspaper, and I would encourage them to do research on their own, and that's why I would like to see this removed from the next meeting's agenda. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Dr. Holmes?
Mr. Chair, I know that it was mentioned that we've had, because the dual research failed, it was a motion that failed, but we've also had other motions that have failed that we have brought up again, so I'd like to see it stay on the agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. McFadden?
For those who do research, it's a lot of information out there. There's some untruths and there's some things that are true and some that are not. And I would just say that for a consensus, I requested it so that the board members, the executive staff, and all the public who watches has an idea of the reason why it was brought to us to begin with. So I suggest that it stay on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments? All right, we'll take the vote at this time. Hand vote. Okay, all in favor of the motion to table the Jewel report, please raise your right hand or say aye if you're on the phone. All right. All opposed, saying
Aye.
all right, motion fails 6-1. Any other motions or questions or comments on the draft agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Agostini?
I think to clarify Dr. Scott's vote, she should have said no or nay versus she said aye.
Technically, you're correct, but I think the indication was I was clear that it was a vote in the negative against. So, thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, we will now move on to the approval of the draft agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Mackey.
I move to approve the draft agenda items for the April 27th, 2021 Richland 2 School Board meeting.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Caution Parker. Any discussion? All in favor? No, we'll now take the vote. This is computer. Zelina, you need a hand vote? Do you hand? Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand, or
Aye.
all opposed? Motion passes 6-1. All right, we will now move on to the second public participation, which no one has signed up, so we will do board and superintendent comments. I'll start with Dr. Scott on the phone.
As always, want to say thank you for your time this evening. Thank you for the presentations that were given. And as always, continue to wear your mask and stay safe. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Mackey.
Have a wonderful evening. Those who choose to be here and those who've got to be here, bless you. Thank you for all the people who pour into our presentations in the evening to prepare for our board meetings. You all be safe. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Bless you all.
Ms. McFadden.
I just wanted to say for the military children, I know it can be rough moving a lot. I really enjoyed the presentation. I know it's something important when the children see their parents again, and I really enjoyed watching that because it is very emotional, and the parents are away serving our country and helping us and making sure that our freedoms are safe. And so we do say thank you to military families, and then the children that have to be in those situations. It's good and bad, and I just want to say thank you for that presentation and to the parents and the children.
Thank you, Ms. Agostini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to thank Kelsey Carter for her inspirational moment and for recognizing our military children. Thank you to Mrs. Bennett, who participated in public participation today, for supporting our teachers and for advocating for our students' safety. And then finally to Dr. Davis, Providence Hospital, for partnering with us, Don McAdams, Will Anderson. Thank you so much for providing that vaccine clinic. I had the opportunity to get vaccinated there, but also to go out and visit. And thank you just for providing that opportunity for our employees. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Dr. Caution Parker.
I would like to say how much I really appreciated the inspirational moment. Every time I see that, the children seeing their parents for the first time return home, I cry. I cry. I'm an Army brat, the oldest of 3 girls. We moved every 2 or 3 years all over the place, 10 years in Europe. When we moved here to Columbia, this was my 3rd high school, C.A. Johnson High School, class of 68. And it was my third high school. And it was just amazing looking back now after all these years. It's been over 50 years now. But how that still resonates, all the moving around, the upheaval and all that. It really takes a toll. It really takes a toll, especially on the kids and on the family. I do know when we got here, it's first time I saw my mother have a fit, and say, we ain't moving nowhere no time soon, no more. So that was it. We stayed here in Columbia, still here. Just want to say congratulations to all those who were recognized in the superintendent's highlights presented this evening. It just continues to amaze me. We are just really such a moving district and in such a positive direction. And it's just such an honor to be here in Richland School District 2. And I'd like to thank everyone for the reports this evening. Things are really hopping in the district and in the legislature. So we've got a lot to look forward to, and hopefully everything's going to turn out okay. I feel like it is. I really feel like it is. So, and I did have one question. Now, we can go out to Westwood just to support the teachers having the vaccines, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Holmes.
I'd like to say thank you for all the reports that were given tonight. They were very informative. I know the work that has to go in to putting those together, and I just wanted to know that you're appreciated for all that you do. Also, thank you for our opening moment of inspiration, and kudos to our military families. I am also a military brat. I was actually born overseas myself, so I understand what you go through, and it's a lot of a sacrifice, and that is something that we have to be thankful for. So kudos to all of our military families. Also, the other part that I want to make sure that we emphasize is that for the legislative reports that we're doing that because we want you to, as parents and teachers and the community, if you have concerns about any of the bills that we talk about, please reach out to your House and your Senate members. We can talk about it and we can address it, but it also takes a village. So if you have concerns about the things that we're talking about up here, I urge you to please reach out to them. They need to hear from the voting body also. And with that, I'd like to just say thank you to, congratulations to our history teacher of the year. Congratulations to him on that also. And with that, have a very great evening.
Thank you. Dr. Davis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and the board for the opportunity to speak. And I just want to start out by just saying, again, thank you to my team, to the staff that put together the board meetings for us each and every second and fourth Tuesday. We appreciate all of your hard work and attention to detail, ensuring that our board meetings go off as smooth as possible. Thank you to our board for another outstanding board meeting this afternoon. I think we got a lot accomplished that was business related to our school district and the need of supporting learning for our students and also our employees. Thank you for approving of unfreezing the steps so that our employees are at minimally shown some level of appreciation for what they do in this district, and that's all employees, including our teachers as well as our support staff and administration that ensure that our students are receiving premier educational experiences. I want to say congratulations to General Beagle. We had an opportunity to recognize him prior to spring break. Congratulations on his new assignment to Fort Drum. And we just want to say thank you for your support of Richland 2 during your tenure here and in our back home here in this community. Again, congratulations to Dr. Hicks and also to Dr. Campbell on their recognitions and awards as well. And I just want to say to our teachers, thank you for your participation in the vaccine clinics. Coming out and being vaccinated was extremely important. And also, we're looking forward to being able to repeat this process later this week. And so if you should need anything or have any questions, please reach out to us. We just want to thank you for all the things that you've continued to do to ensure that our students are at the front and the foremost of the decisions that we are making here as a school district. So we appreciate your service and continued support of our students. So I'll bid everyone a good evening and be safe and see you next time.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Also want to thank General Beagle and his wife, Pam. Both of them have been fantastic partners in the district. And I really appreciate the fact we were able to have an in-person ceremony for him. It was certainly a little more intimate than some of our others, but it was fantastic and lots of emotion. It's really just amazing to see the partnership that we have with Fort Jackson and that we have with our military families and the support that we are a Purple Star district and continue to support those students, the families, and the community that supports all of them. And so we very fortunate to have that in our backyard here, and the effort that goes both directions on that. I really appreciate all the work that's being done on the bond. I mean, it really is one of the largest bonds passed in the state for K through 12. It really has such an extreme impact on our community, the learning environment for our students, and certainly look forward to the day when they can all actually be in those facilities, not only because they're built, but because COVID allows us to actually be there and fully utilize those facilities. I know how much work goes into these meetings, and I know there were a lot of comments, but thank you to staff. I mean, it's a major undertaking to pull all this together, including the amazing custom podium that we had built up here in the front. We're going to continue to brag on that because it's great. Thank you for that, and I hope everyone has the clinic. I also got my vaccine. First one, I'm going to get my second one, keeping my fingers crossed that I stay upright after I get the second one. But I'm definitely going to go get it and complete that process. Look forward to having my card. I'm going to put it like on a necklace or coat pocket or something. But thank you all for everything. If I can have a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Mackey.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Motion's been made by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Holmes. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand or say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimous. We're now adjourned.